I've been thinking the last few days, I've been struggling a bit with inspiration. Then I realised that's a load of rubbish. Nobody struggles with inspiration. What they struggle with is recognising inspiration. A lot of people think it comes to you like a flash. And it can do, genuinely can do. Like the latest poem that I wrote on the channel was written because I was sat at temporary traffic lights and I shouted, "I don't believe it," which became, "I don't believe in, I don't believe it, I don't believe that," etc. So that comes as a flash of inspiration. It didn't take me long to write the poem either. And things like the Beatles being for the benefit of Mr. Kite was written because John Lennon saw a poster for a fair, and the song was basically him just reading the poster. All the lines that are in there, about 99% of it was just on the poster as written. And I remember I knew that song inside out in the sort of the 80s probably. By the 80s I knew it inside out, but it was before the days of the internet. So it took me a while before I saw the actual poster. I'd heard about it. I heard that's where he got it from. But I wasn't able to log on and see it on a screen. First time I did, it was like, what? He has literally just sang the poster. So that kind of thing, inspiration does come as a flash. A lot of other times though, it's more insidious than that. Things burrow inside your brain slowly, just bit by bit. And it's recognising what they are. Busy this morning. And I know what it's like. I wrote a song years ago. And as I was singing it, the first couple of times, it's like that little bit of the first verse before I get into the chorus sounds just like Squeeze. I never started off thinking I'm going to write a song that sounds like Squeeze. That was never in my mind. It was just that when I come to sing it, the turnaround at the end of the verse just sounded exactly like something Glenn Tilbrook would sing. Why did it sound like that? Is it because that's just the way the song sounded in my head? Is it because I've listened to lots of Squeeze over the years? Is there a little bit of inspiration lodged in my brain somewhere that when I come to sing this song, this is what sounded right? Must be. Things get lodged in your brain without you knowing about it. And then eventually, before you know where you are, they come out again. So it's just about recognising inspiration. Don't let it pass you by. Don't walk out of that antique shop and looking at the poster for the fair. Don't just look at it and think, oh, it's a nice poster. Recognise stuff like that. That would make a really good song. Lennon did. Reminds me of that time I was working for two of the lads who used to come in our pub. Mick and Mick, or the two Micks as they were known. We were working for a mate of ours whose dad was Italian. And I don't mean like second or third generation Italian. I mean, he came here when he was an adult, this fella. Very, very thick Italian accent. And Big Mick was out in the garden, sawing a piece of wood, singing, "Say for your love, my darling, say for your love," in a very, very offensive Italian accent. We asked him about it afterwards. Why were you doing that? Don't know, it just come out. These things burrow inside your brains. So inspiration's about finding what you need when you need and recognising it straight away. But it's not always a flash of inspiration. And it can be anything, literally anything. As I just talked about, a poster on a wall, an antique poster. And the better artists out there are the ones who can find inspiration easier than others. If you are struggling with it, it's about training yourself to recognise things. What would work well in your particular sphere? What are the kind of things you should be looking out for? Even if you're a filmmaker, is your inspiration coming from listening to music, watching the news? If you're an artist, does it come from watching TV, watching filmmakers, seeing a particular director of photography who, when they're filming, treats every single frame on the screen as a work of art? Do you look at that and think, I can paint something as beautiful as the film they've made? It can come from anywhere. The frustration of being in traffic jams like this one again. You've got to train yourself to recognise these things. Or, if you can recognise them, to then fill the well of inspiration a bit more often by listening to more music, watching more artistic films. If you put more on your plate, you'll have a bigger feast. That's all it's about, isn't it? Which is why most bands will start off heavily influenced by the bands that they love, because you listen to them a lot. In rehearsal, or when you're starting to learn how to play together as a band, you play the songs from the bands that you love. Your sound is initially built around the sound of music that you're listening to. You soon move on from that, and then maybe the more left field influences come into play. The bands that you like but don't listen to as often as the others, they start wheedling their way in. Plenty of music been made around sort of watching film as well. People do cinematic soundscapes. Just find your influence. If you are struggling, this is the thing now, isn't it? I am struggling for inspiration. If you're just standing there in front of a blank canvas, you will struggle. Nourish yourself, fill yourself with other art. Let that be your guiding light. And if all else fails, if you're still struggling, go back to what you were originally influenced by. What were the things that used to give you your inspiration? Was it music? Did you find yourself, after listening to an album, did you find yourself writing more poetry, or being able to write more lines of dialogue for a film? Or did you find yourself listening to John Coltrane and painting the most amazing pictures? Get back to doing that. If you're a YouTuber, a wannabe YouTuber, someone who's making little films, little short films, do you get influenced by watching, I don't know, Wes Anderson films and looking for places around you that are of a similar aesthetic? You know, all the symmetrical stuff that he does in pastel colours. Is that what you look for? Does watching them give you inspiration? Does that tune your eye to look for things? If that's what it is that did it, go back to doing that. And don't moan about losing inspiration. Don't moan about it being difficult to find. It is just a well of inspiration. You need to fill it yourself sometimes. And then if all else fails, go for a walk. Wander around your locality. Because where you live is also an inspiration. A lot of what I've written over the years has been inspired by being from Liverpool. The place, the river, the people, the attitude, the political standpoint. Liverpool's a very rich well for stuff like that. Doesn't mean that Southport isn't, or Bognor Regis, or Coventry, or wherever it is you come from. You've got to train your eyes, man, to look for what's important and to look for what can inspire you. Birds. Does bird song not inspire you? Should do, shouldn't it? The sounds of nature. Because it certainly would have done for the likes of Brian Eno or Mark Hollis, people that made ambient music. Just being sat in the garden, listening to the sounds of nature. That must be where stuff like that originated from. I mean, Brian Eno did a song, was it, but I can't remember, waiting in airports. You're sat in an airport, bored, what you do? His creative brain was, how can I turn this into music? How can I turn this into an expression of art? Because his brain was trained, you see. People like that, really true artistic creatives, they can find things all the time. Their well is always nourished. Do the same. I mean, obviously, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you are a creative and you're struggling, just learn to look for things. And when you find stuff that works for you, keep going back to it. Don't overmine it, because otherwise you'll get bored of it yourself. But when you're struggling, go back to what you know. It's a song by Embrace, isn't it? Get back to what you know. But it works. And then if all else fails, just be a genius like John Lennon. Easy when you know how, isn't it? Oh, and that reminds me, I got my letter through to go for my physiotherapy examination assessment on my knee. 25th of March.